Welcome to Resilient in Business, a podcast where we dive into insights, strategies, and systems to help you build scalable, thriving businesses. My name is Jad Atwe. I'm an engineer, an entrepreneur, and a business coach. Our intention from this show is to provide value and inspire entrepreneurs to keep pushing forward no matter the challenges. If you enjoy the content, subscribe and help us spread the message. Now, let's get into today's episode. I'm very excited for today's episode. Today, we have an expert in sales, Richard Few. Richard is the founder of Sales Geek, where he helps different types of businesses, especially in building their sales teams, the sales engine, and everything that's related to the sales function. So I'm very excited for today. Richard, thank you for joining me. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks. So how did your journey evolve? How did you end up in sales?
How did I end up in sales? Well, like most people, it wasn't by design. I think most people, certainly in the UK market, that are in a sales career, if you asked them what they wanted to be when they were, maybe 15, 16, 18 years old, it was never sales. So for me, all I ever wanted to do as I was going through school was to be a professional golfer. So I left school at 16 to pursue that career. And after a few years, realized that I was a bit too far away from being able to achieve what I needed to achieve through that. I was a bit too far away from the standards. Having been an early school leaver, I'd been working in the pro shop at the golf club since I was about 13, and so serving people. I guess, develop those people skills, and somebody recommended that I go into sales. So that was my as I waved goodbye to my golf career, I ended up in sales.
What was the peak of the golf career?
I got to do some cool stuff. I guess as a junior, there was a couple of other younger golfers in the same area as me that I've played some rounds of golf with, like Luke Donald, who obviously has gone on to do amazing things. Ryder Cup player, plays on the US tour now. So I've played golf with him and played against him as a junior. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I guess I performed quite well as a junior, sort of team captain for our first team, and at what I would have been 16 years old, and sort of played regionally in the UK, but I was too far away from that next couple of tiers up.
So sales was the passion. What got you excited about it?
I think for me initially it was so a low barrier to entry. I didn't have to have a degree or a qualification from school to go and try it. I think certainly back then, most sales employers would give you an opportunity and give you a few months to prove yourself. And I think beyond that, Jad, I guess it was an endless opportunity. I think for a young guy, I was only 18, 19 at the time, trying to find something that I could go and apply myself to where I could do well in life. And I felt like actually instinctively then felt like if I got into sales and had a good career from it, that I was a young guy, came from quite a working class background, and didn't have a lot growing up. And I felt like that it might be a career path, which meant that I could provide a good quality life for my future family, which I now have. And it's absolutely done that. It's one of the things I love about sales, actually, is it doesn't discriminate, really. It's, you're either good at it or you're not good at it, irrespective of, where you've come from and what education you have.
Yes. I've been following your business's journey like on social media for a long time. It's impressive what you've achieved. You have a large team right now. You're helping people in different countries. Tell us more about Sales Geek. What do you guys do? And
Yeah, so I guess as a business, we're on a mission to change the way the world perceives sales. So I guess, what does that mean? Well, I suppose for me that means that sales is a bit of a dirty word for a lot of people. It's a really weird, I guess, business conundrum, sales, because it's necessary in every business. Without sales, I think I heard somebody say once that a business without sales is just a hobby. So everybody needs sales, whether you're a one person business or a multinational. Everyone needs sales, and yet most people that are in sales almost kind of pretend that they're not, and they come up with clever job titles to kind of deceive their customers into the fact that they're not a salesperson.
business development.
Yeah, it happens. It happens everywhere. I think also customers get a bit icky about feeling like they're buying from a sales department as well. So therefore, it's not a considered career choice. I think it's also quite a confusing thing for business owners and small business owners, particularly, who don't come from a sales background. And so for me, I wanted to create a business where we could make sales more simple for small business owners and salespeople, but also while doing that, maybe play our own part in changing that perception of it by for our own behaviors really and our own models. So our model, we operate as a franchise model. We franchise the business actually through COVID. We used COVID was quite a scary time, but it also gave us time, and we decided to commit to that model as part of our growth strategy. Up until that point, we were still quite a regional business in the north of the UK here, and COVID gave us that time to reflect and consider, how do we scale, and scale in a way where we can business communities all over the UK and all over the world, and that means having people on the ground. So the franchise model was brilliant for that. So we launched that around 4 years ago. So we now have over 30 franchisees in the UK, 14 states of the US, and in India and the Middle East as well now, which has been very exciting.
Yes. And do you find a difference in different cultures in working with different people at different geographic areas?
Yeah, so that there are definitely some differences. I think people overthink the differences sometimes. I think people think it's more different than it really is. It's the same in different sectors as well. We engage with clients all the time who believe their market or their sector is particularly unique, and I think sometimes that happens geographically as well, where people think that their country or their region is particularly unique. But actually, what we've realized is that there's far more common ground than there is uniqueness in some of these regions. And you get obviously some cultural differences naturally, in whether that's I suppose can be some quite subtle things, certainly between UK and US, whereas I suppose UK to India, there are differences, I guess, in work hours, in work days, in work culture, and I suppose some social differences like the caste system in India that has an effect on who can sell to who and who can't sell to who. So there's some of those things that we've had to learn. Similarly, in the Middle East, primarily has a migrant population from all different corners of the world. So it almost doesn't have it. It has some of its own culture, but it inherits its culture from all over the world. So some of those things do make a difference, but I would say that 85% of sales, the science is the same.
What type of businesses do you guys work with?
So we work with a very broad spectrum of size of businesses. So we have customers that are literally one-man businesses who come and either join our online academy or will join our, I suppose, kind of cohorts, if that makes sense, and kind of group versions of the support that we can provide, right the way through to large global brands like the International Airlines Group, Panasonic. We have some big global brands as well that we work with, and we have I suppose we have 15 different products and services that are all designed to service those businesses in different ways. So we can help business owners, we can help sales teams. We have mentoring products for sales leaders as well, because sales leaders are dreadfully undertrained and undersupported in organizations. It's generally a good salesperson that gets promoted and they're expected to know what to do. So we work across a really broad spectrum of size of business.
If you want to go all technical now, what are the elements of what should be in place to build a strong sales engine?
Yeah, so I guess there are probably some common parts to a sales engine, irrespective of the type and size of business, but there's also quite a few things that are, I guess, variable. But I suppose the core aspects for me are, the place I always like to start is in the value proposition. So, do people actually understand what you do? Can you articulate what you do in a way that shows and demonstrates that you solve problems for people? And I think that at a very basic level is critical. That certainly most entrepreneurial, founder-driven businesses where there's a huge amount of passion there around a product or a service, and sometimes that passion can be a really good thing. Sometimes that passion can sometimes not be such a good thing, because it can be bamboozling for the person the other side of that conversation who just wants to know how this thing fixes a problem for them. So for me, the first place we start is to understand how compelling is their value proposition, and are they articulating what they do in the right way. I think beyond that, it's understanding, okay, well, based on that value proposition, who is the target audience, and how expert are you in your customers? And we see this mistake made a lot, Jad, which is people take a lot of pride in being experts about their products and their services, but actually they need to be experts in their customer, and we help businesses become more, I suppose, intimately knowledgeable about their customers and their problems and their challenges. Really, the third element of that is how do you go and speak to those people? So we know how we help people, we know who we help. How do you go and engage with those people? How much of that is marketing? How much of that is sales? Who's doing that? And depending on the business and the who is, if that makes sense, who the target audience is, will then drive what the strategy is around how they build out that sales engine.
Hey, a quick commercial break. This podcast is brought to you by Business Optimization Partners, a firm that specializes in helping entrepreneurs systemize their business and transform it into a professionally managed asset that is scalable and easy to operate. If you wish to learn more, download the guide to running a professionally managed business that's available in the description. Now, back to the episode. Yes. At what point do people realize that we need help in our sales?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would argue a lot of people leave it too late. A lot of people will wait for there to be a problem rather than capitalizing on growth. Some of my most favorite projects over the years, and I know it's the same for our franchisees, is when a founder or an owner has actually created some really good trajectory and some sales in the business. They want to capitalize on that while they're still growing, and that's a great situation to step into. What we tend to find though is people kind of they start well because they've got a network, they've got friends, family, old colleagues, whoever they can go back to. There's some people that they know that will buy their product or their service, and that kind of creates a false confidence almost that they're always going to have to find people that will buy their products or service. And then there's naturally a point where it tapers off, it just drops off, and often people wait until they've got a sales problem before they reach out. And we see that I suppose at a macroeconomics level in the UK when the economy is flying. If I think out the back of sort of COVID, when sort of 2021, 2022, the economy was going crazy, everyone had spare cash. Sales training inquiries were down during that period of time because people don't look for ways to get better when they're winning. But as soon as the newspapers start reporting headlines that, there's going to be a recession next year, or the economy is going to slow down, or things are going to get harder, then people start looking for ways to get better. And I'm a big sports fan. And I think if you look at the best sports teams in the world, I think about New Zealand All Blacks in rugby union, one of the most successful sports teams in the history of world sport. One of the things that makes them unique is they genuinely try and get better even when they're winning. And I think most people wait until they've lost before they start to try and get better.
Absolutely, yes. So sales is affected by marketing. Do you find that a major part of your work is helping them with that, with marketing as well?
Yeah, so marketing and sales have an interesting relationship, I think it would be fair to say. And I think if we had a marketeer on here, they might have some different views. And I think from my perspective, I think there are two different types of organizations. There are marketing-led organizations and sales-led organizations. And I think that depends on what the product or service is and who people are trying to reach. So if it's a marketing-led organization, marketing really kind of, I suppose, is the spearhead of the business, and sales kind of sits behind it and supports it and helps. Whereas obviously the other way around, sales will spearhead that, and marketing then plays more of a supporting function, if that makes sense. And it's probably a good question for any of your listeners to ask themselves, actually, which one are we? Because I think sometimes people aren't sure, and they end up kind of doing a bit of a mix of both, and the two things can get. I also think we live in a world now, Jad, where I think that in a positive way, it needs to be quite a lot of crossover between sales and marketing. I don't think they should operate as completely independent units in a business like they maybe once did. I think marketers have to understand sales these days. They have to understand those human behaviors, but I also think very good salespeople are really good at personal brand and marketing as well. So I think that the lines have probably got, in a positive way, have got even more blurry over the last probably 10 to 12 years.
Yeah. Can you make like a general theory behind it? Let's say like service-based businesses should rely more on this than that. Other types of businesses should rely more on this than that. Is there some sort of general guidelines?
So I think in any business, there has to be, I think there's a chronic lack of marketing investment in most businesses. And I think often when it comes to marketing, people only see marketing through the lens of how does it help me drive new leads and new inquiries for my business. But I think marketing needs to go into internal marketing to engage the team. It needs to go into existing customers as well. So for me, no matter how sales led a business is, there still has to be a minimum threshold of investment in marketing as an organization, whether that's PR, whether that's engaging in marketing internally to existing customers and existing stakeholders. But I think there's a few variables. So what would the variables be? I think that the target audience is a variable. I think if you're going low volume, high value, I think a more direct sales approach with marketing support is the right way, rather than I suppose just using marketing to open those doors. I think if you're higher volume, lower value, then marketing creates economies of scale because you can reach more people more cost effectively than having an individual salesperson either using the phone or sending emails and messages on an individual basis. I think that's the main driver for me is, okay, are we high volume or low volume as a business, and are we high value or low value as a business? And I think if you are low volume, high value, then I think more of a sales approach personally works. Get out, get in the field, get in the network, meet some people, engage, convert, and you're going to do that quicker than marketing either through PPC, through SEO, through PR, etc., whatever those channels are. Whereas if you're trying to reach one to many, you've got consumer-based products, for argument's sake, which is low value, high volume, then I think that has to be more marketing led at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, because high ticket offers basically they need more trust. They need this personal connection.
And certainly in the services sector as well, I think when it's if part of what that customer is buying is the individual as well, I think it's even more important to make a human connection with that person. And the way to do that it's easy to do that through sales than it is through any marketing assets.
Yes, absolutely. You mentioned that many businesses don't know their clients. What are some ways to understand, to have a deep understanding of your client and their behavior?
I think for me, although it's a common problem, it's not a difficult problem to fix, which is good. I think a lot of problems in businesses are left because they're complex. This isn't a complex one for me, and I see this both in both small businesses with founders and owners, but also see it with sales teams where most salespeople, when they're onboarding into an organization, best they get some product training, they get some initiation, they get to meet some people, they get some product training, and then basically they're given a phone and a laptop and told to go and sell some stuff. And often the thing that's missing, like I say, is training and understanding both knowledge of customers, but also how to go and engage with them, which is, I suppose, simply put, is sales training, right? So for me, it's just an investment in time from the organization or the individuals in it to go and physically spend time in those customers if you can. If that's practical, it might not be because of geography. We live in a world of global enterprise, so that might be harder. But for me, you need to get to a point where you can truly understand and therefore truly empathize with the problems and the challenges that your customers have.
How do you find social media these days, and what's working, what's not working? How do we utilize more? Like there's a term that's thrown out there. It's called social selling.
Social
What's
selling, yeah.
that about, and how can we utilize it to benefit our business?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing tool. Actually, I think there's a generation of salespeople now who don't appreciate how much harder selling was 20, 25 years ago, before LinkedIn, before being able to access data, before being able to directly communicate, certainly through like LinkedIn Messenger. You think about it now, you could pick any business in the world, you could go on LinkedIn, you can search through their employee list on LinkedIn, you can find the person in the right job title, you can connect with them and send them a piece of communication and start a conversation with them. And you can do that from a laptop in a coffee shop anywhere in the world. Whereas 20, 25 years ago, you'd have to ring the business, you'd have to speak to what they class as a gatekeeper, find out, try and get names from people, figure out who's who. And it'd take quite a long time to even start to map out the org chart in your head of who the people are in that business that you want to engage with. Now you can do it in minutes if you've got to do it yourself. You can do it in seconds if you subscribe and buy data from any one of sort of subscription based data organizations where you can find people by company, by job title in no time at all. So there's so many benefits to it. I think a lot of people get it wrong. Personally, I don't think they use the tool in the appropriate way. But if we go away from marketing and think about social selling, and selling really is about building trust. It's about building relationship with somebody. It's never been easier, I don't think. I think people are more suspicious, but I think there's never been as many channels to communicate with people or as many mediums. One of the things that I love, Jad, is the use of video, and video over LinkedIn Messenger is a great example. Like, what a brilliant outreach tool where you can send a short video, 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, or whatever, to a prospect. No better way or more engaging way to start a conversation. And you think, again, for years, we'd sit in an office and make 60, 70, 80 cold calls a day to get told to go away 95% of the time to start a conversation. And now it's so much easier to engage with people. And I think it's a really exciting time.
Yes. Especially with the AI and the tools that are out there right now.
Yes.
It's you can even replace yourself with video.
I think it enables personalization at scale, which is exciting, and I think that's for salespeople. When I think about what makes a great salesperson and the ability to build relationships, personalize things, be intimate, as it were, and empathetic to customers, AI is going to provide a very good supporting role in that. I don't think it doesn't replace the salesperson. I think it makes the salesperson more efficient. And I think the good thing for businesses, I think you have more efficient sales departments generally. I think you're going to get a higher level of utilization from the sales resources that you've got, and I think AI is going to be a really good enabler for that. And I think for any salespeople listening to this, if you've not properly lent into AI to understand how it can make you better at your job, like, start doing that very quickly. You're going to need it in your toolkit going forwards. And I think I saw a quote recently that said that AI won't replace your job, but someone that can use AI will. So we use it in various different forms, I guess, across our organization. So I would suggest our marketing and content creation teams probably use it the most. Like you said, the efficiency through video production, asset production. We've got a marketing team here that can punch way above its weight in terms of outputs through the use of a whole combination of AI platforms. We use it to remove a lot of the mundane, repeatable tasks in the business, which then means that our team can use their intelligence and their brain power and their creativity rather than doing repeatable, mundane tasks, which is useful. And then obviously then, I suppose, at a client delivery level, we have to stay ahead of the line so we can help our clients to understand what tools they can use in their sales functions to leverage AI to help them grow their businesses.
Yes. So, I mean, building a sales engine involves lots of steps. How do you know where you should focus and where to spend the money?
So I think I'm a big fan of data and science. I think a lot of people's perception of sales is it's about the gift of the gab. It's about an extroverted personality and kind of convincing people to buy your stuff. And I think actually for me, when it comes to building a sales engine, there's certain elements of science which are the same. Understanding the psychology of the people whose problems that you solve, and really putting that in the middle of anything that you do. The who you serve is far more important than what you do as a business. And I think, again, people get that wrong. And I think once you know who that customer profile is, and you can then more easily build that engine around it. And ultimately data, if you're, I suppose, creating opportunities to collate data, then ultimately in time, that data will show you where you're good, where you're not good, where you need to invest in your sales process. So for me, every business needs to understand the sales process. Everyone has one, and whether it's a couple of steps or whether it's 9 or 10. And I think if you're using CRM properly with a very well thought through sales process, you'll soon start to create a picture in your business of through which stages you convert well, through which stages you don't. You'll understand the time gaps in that process. You'll understand conversion rates by customer, conversion rates by products. There's all these data that you can pull once you're in a CRM system using it. You can then start to pull it out, and you can see, where do we do well? Do we put a lot in at the top? It stays in for a long time and tapers off at the end. Do we lose it really early in the process? Are we putting the right things in the top? You can, rather than guessing at that stuff, you can use data to prove whether you are or whether you aren't. Whereas I think in a lot of sales departments, we see a lot of objective opinions or subjective opinions, should I say, actually, rather than the use of data.
Yes. Yeah, then now you can go back and optimize the specific areas based on the results. Absolutely. What's the in this world, how can people stand out? What are some ways that you're seeing would help people stand out and attract clients on autopilot?
Yeah. It's a $64 million question. I think again, it's quite It's quite a simple answer. It's just whether people are willing to do it or not. And I think to stand out, you've got to be willing to do things that are different to how everybody else acts. Be a flamingo in a flock of pigeons, as they say. And you can't stand out if you do the same as everybody else. So I suppose my challenge to any business would be, if that's your goal, if your goal is to stand out, then how much are you willing to challenge the norms and the status quo of whatever sector that you're in, whatever sector that you're in that you're trying to stand out in? How brave are you willing to be? And I think some people want to stand out but aren't willing to stand out, if that makes sense. But I think if it's important to you, like I say, that was kind of our goal, really, Jad. Like when I set the business up, the sales training, sales consultancy market is quite a mature, very old, very competitive marketplace, and we wanted to create a brand that certainly looked and felt different. So from day one, we behaved differently, and whether that's I suppose I'm sat here not deliberately, but in a hoodie rather than a shirt and tie. Whether it's how we brand ourselves, the values that we have as an organization, the people that we employ, the ways in which we behave, like right the way through the organization, you have to be willing to act and behave differently to your competitors if you want to stand out and do things that they don't do.
What typically, based on your clients and the results that they get, what's the time frame that you'd say? And I know it's different and specific and case by case, but how long does it take to actually move things around and actually start seeing results?
Yeah, so a lot of time it can be pretty quick, actually. If I think about some of the smaller businesses that we work with, because the bigger ones are actually relatively easy because there's lots going on. It's easier to create change in those businesses. But in those smaller businesses, our primary service offering is being a fractional sales leader in those small businesses. And a big thing for us is that although we are looking to help them build out a longer term sort of strategic view for their sales engine, what we won't do is ignore any kind of like low hanging fruit or short term wins. And most of those businesses will have some pipeline. They will have opportunities. They'll have conversations on the go already and leads and opportunities on the go already that they haven't converted or they're not converting. So often we can step in and influence those opportunities that are in the pipeline very, very quickly, which generates more revenue pretty. So that's the first place that we look. We know that smaller businesses often don't have the budgets to invest too much now for the future. They need some results now. So I think that's the difference between us and let's say, a traditional sales consultancy where they're going to build a plan that's a bit more kind of long term. We want to get into that part of the process. We will do that, but we also want to make sure that we are maximizing any opportunities that they've already got. And in sales, I guess it's probably easier for us to do because there's stuff that they're not converting, there's opportunities that they might not close, so we can get our sleeves rolled up, as they say, and help out in a very practical way.
What does a fractional salesperson is involvement look like? Are they helping you on every once in a while? Are they there weekly? What's the typical engagement?
So it varies really from as little as half a day a month to maybe 2 days a week for slightly larger small businesses. They're still small businesses, but there are, I suppose, all of those clients are what we class as being pre sales director in their growth. So they're not at a level of revenue yet where they can either justify financially or make sense in terms of workload to have a full-time sales director in their business. So depending on how far away they are from being able to do that will determine whether it's a couple of days a week or whether it's a few hours a month, because the really, really small businesses only need a few hours a month to really start to make some impact. So it would depend on the size of the business, really, and the complexity of the challenge.
So the type of support is mostly getting them back on track. It's not salesperson support. It's more like consulting, coaching,
Yeah.
that type of, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
well, we're part-time sales directors. So if you went and hired a full-time sales director, everything you'd expect for that person to come in doing the business, we do that on a fractional basis.
Yes. So you help in a sense train their internal sales people to become better. Is this part of the process?
Yeah, it could be training the salespeople, could be training the founder if the founder's still on the front line selling potentially. Obviously, in bigger businesses, we deliver sales training to salespeople rather than necessarily working with the organizational leaders. But with our part-time sales director service, it's generally the business owner that brings us in for that. So we work very closely with the business owner to build out the engine. And I guess we will work with whatever resource they have in the business. Some have very little, some have a bit more, but yeah, we will work with what's there and help them grow it and build it out.
Yes. What challenges do you find business owners have? Is there some resistance to certain ways of doing things or What are you saying?
So I would say that the most common challenges. So I mean, fortunately for us, we don't see. I suppose our growth has been fueled by the fact that people have a need for what we do. We genuinely solve a problem in small businesses. Most small businesses are set up by people that don't come from a sales background. They're generally experts in the product or the service. So every one of those people will have a sales challenge at some point. And the most common sales challenges that we see on the whole are going to be opportunity and lead generation. So how do I get stuff in the top of my funnel? That's a problem. Sales recruitment is a massive issue for small businesses. So when they need to start hiring salespeople, a lot of people, that's when they start wasting a lot of money and making bad sales hires that cost them money, but also cost them time and lost revenue while they're getting it wrong. And that's something that we really help people with. As that sales director in that business, we will kind of lead the charge on recruitment, which ultimately saves the client a lot of money and also a lot lost revenue. But yeah, I would say sales recruitment, lead generation at the top end of the funnel, and then probably lack of systems and process in the business. We step into a lot of businesses that have CRM systems. At best, they're on Excel, and they've got no way of understanding their pipeline and how to manage it.
Looking back at your personal entrepreneurial journey, do you step back and say, "I wish I did this better"? Is there a place where you say, "I wish I did something different"?
So I'm not a big one for regrets necessarily. I guess as I think I always look back on anything that's happened in my career and it was meant to happen that way. I think everything that's ever happened in my career has led me to where I'm now, which is a very happy place. And there's things that in the moment felt like things that you would class them as things that went wrong. And at the time, it didn't feel good, but I think they are all things that have led me to where I am. But I think some of the best advice that I got, Jad, I think, interesting. I was having this conversation with one of my colleagues on the way in this morning. I gave one of my team a lift in this morning, and we were talking about, I said, like, when I was growing up, my parents instilled a very strong work ethic in me that they kind of said, whatever you may end up lacking in intellect or academia, you can make up for in hard work and you can outwork the competition, as it were. And I think that has helped me massively. And I think we kind of live in a world now where it's not okay to say that as much, maybe, that, just work harder to get to where you want to get to. But I think, we still celebrate it in sport. If you look at the best sports people in the world, their work ethics are insane. Like, whether that's in soccer, football, whether that's in golf, whether that's in F1, like the guys that are at the top of their game work the most, they practice the most, they prepare the best. And yet I think in the professional world, I think in the commercial world, and in business, I think we've got to a point where we're almost not allowed to say it anymore. But I think as a young person, for me, it was my path towards some level of success was just working hard, keep turning up, keep working hard, keep learning, keep getting better. And that gave me a really good, not just career, but, helped me get this business off the ground over the last 8 years too.
How did you find the franchising journey? How was it like?
Yeah, we've learned a ton on the basis that none of us in the business at the point that we chose to franchise had any franchising experience. So everything we've learned over the last 4 years. And yeah, I guess the the biggest learning curve has been to understand, the relationship with our franchisees. And before we franchised, we grew a team out, and we're a very sort of tight group of people. And there's also a number of those people that have now had to go on quite a change because their roles aren't the same as what they were 4 years ago. So now supporting the franchise network rather than supporting clients. But with franchisees, they kind of we see it as a bit of a Venn diagram of customer, supplier, and team member. And the reality of the franchisee is any one of those things at any point in time. We absolutely see them as customers of our brand and our business. They're also a supplier because they're providing services to customers of our brand. But also we believe in the value of community and tribe, I guess, and keeping these guys together. And therefore we have to also treat them quite a bit like our own employed team here. And I think that's taken a while to make sure we get the right balance of that. I think outside of that, I would say that the next biggest challenge would be, we've had some guys join us from some very big companies and big organizations, and they've only ever worked in large business, and we have to kind of like decorporatize them, and get them back into the real world and help them transition from a large corporate to being part of their local business community. And that requires quite a lot of change, actually. Even the language that they use. If you're a sales director for Oracle, you're going to have a language and a vocabulary. And if you walk into a local business networking event with some tradespeople in there and some one-man bands and stuff in there and use that same vocabulary, then a lot of people aren't going to understand it, which is not a good way to win customers if people don't understand and find you quite intimidating. So yeah, there's a lot we have to support our franchisees with, but that's our job, I guess, is to help them transition into running and owning a business, being entrepreneurial and being in their business communities. But yeah, it's a whole lot of fun, and it's massively rewarding when you see people that have taken that risk, they've taken that leap of faith from an employee role, and now they're being very, very successful, and they've got what I suppose more of what they want in life, and that's great to see.
And we'd like to end this podcast usually on a good note, on a exciting note. What are you excited about for the future? What are you looking forward to?
What am I excited about? I guess, well, what I'm excited about today is, I guess, we like I said, our mission is to change the way the world perceives sales. So, over the last 2 years, we've gone from we went from being a regional business to a national business. And over the last 18 months, we've gone from being a national business to trading internationally in some other regions. And as I sit here today, we have 6 conversations on the go for master franchisors in master franchisees, should I say, in 6 new regions globally, which is really exciting. If even 3 or 4 of those come off, that's going to see us into some new parts of the world, which for me, I guess as the founder, my passion is in that mission. And to deliver on that mission, we need geeks in every community of the world, and that's really exciting for me. So that's the main thing, I think. Seeing our brand, our logo, our products and services in more business communities around the world is really exciting.
If someone wants to get in touch, learn more about what you guys do, how can they reach out?
Yeah, so I guess if they want to find out what we do at arm's length, then go to salesgeek.world, which is our global website, to learn a little bit more about what we do. If you want to reach out to me, the best platform is definitely LinkedIn. So jump on LinkedIn. Obviously, you've got my name, and send me a connection request and reach out and say hello.
This was very insightful. Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
That's been great fun. Thanks, Jad, for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the Resilient in Business podcast. This show is all about providing valuable insights and inspiring entrepreneurs to keep pushing forward no matter the challenges. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and help us spread the message. See you on the next one.